You, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
I, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, do solemnly swear
that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States
and will, to the best of your ability,
and will, to the best of my ability,
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
On January 20th, 1961, John Fitzgerald Kennedy took the oath of office as the 35th President of the United States. Only 43 years of age, Kennedy became the youngest man ever to be elected to the presidency. His youthful enthusiasm and inspiring rhetoric stirred in the nation a new spirit of hope and expectation.
Let the word go forth from this time and place to friend and foe alike that the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century, tempered by war, disciplined by a hard and bitter peace, proud of our ancient heritage, and unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation has always been committed and to which we are committed today at home and around the world.
What began with such promise, however, would end less than 3 years later in tragedy. On November 22nd, 1963, President John F. Kennedy was assassinated, shot to death while riding in an open limousine through the city streets of Dallas, Texas. The death of such a young and vigorous leader was an overwhelming event which stunned both the nation and the world. In the years that followed, though, the Kennedy assassination became much more than a national tragedy. When viewed in light of later assassinations, the war in Vietnam and the discontent at home, the Watergate scandal with its resignations of both a vice president and then a president, the death of John Kennedy emerges as a major turning point in American history, symbolizing for many Americans the beginning of a growing public distrust in our government's leaders and institutions. Yet if the effects of the assassination become clearer with each year, the facts surrounding the shooting itself remain obscured in controversy and confusion. And while most people no longer believe the government's official conclusion that John Kennedy was killed by a single assassin, few fully understand the factual basis behind their dissent. In the next 50 minutes, then, we will turn our attention to an analysis of those facts and re-examine what has become one of the most important and complex mysteries in history. It was politics that motivated Kennedy to make the trip to Texas. There, he had hoped to reconcile differences between two factions of the state's Democratic Party, as well as drum up political support in a state that he had barely carried back in 1960. Kennedy, in fact, had felt the visit to be so crucial to his re-election chances that he persuaded his wife, Jacqueline, to accompany him. The first day of the trip, which included visits to Houston and San Antonio on November 21st, had been very successful. Despite his mediocre rating in the latest Gallup poll, overwhelming and enthusiastic crowds greeted the President and the First Lady at every stop along the tour. Late in the morning of Friday, November 22nd, the presidential party arrived at Dallas's Love Field, where the president was again met by a large and exuberant crowd. After taking time out to shake hands, the Kennedys, along with Texas Governor John Connally and his wife Nellie, stepped into a waiting limousine which would take them through the downtown district on the way to the city's Trade Mart, where the president was to give a luncheon speech. As the motorcade made its way through the streets of Dallas, it was obvious that Kennedy's trip was a tremendous success. Near the end of the motorcade route, the limousine entered Dealey Plaza, a small open area on the outskirts of the city. After turning right onto Houston Street, the president's car traveled one short block and then turned very sharply left onto Elm Street, where it passed beneath the Texas School Book Depository. It was 12:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. At this point, Abraham Zapruder, a Dallas clothing manufacturer who watched the motorcade from atop a grassy slope to the west of the book depository, turned on his 8mm Bell & Howell movie camera. Focusing his telephoto lens on the president, Zapruder captured the most shocking and sensational piece of film in history. Immediately after the shooting, the limousine raced to Parkland Memorial Hospital, where doctors worked desperately to save the president's life and to care for Governor Conley, who was also seriously injured in the shooting. Although the governor would make a full recovery, it was obvious to the doctors that Kennedy's wounds were fatal, and at approximately 1 p.m., the president was pronounced dead. Shortly before 1:15 p.m., 45 minutes after the assassination, Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit was shot to death outside his squad car in the Dallas suburb of Oak Cliff. 1/2 hour later, police arrested Lee Harvey Oswald, an employee at the Texas School Book Depository, in a movie theater near the site of the Tippit shooting. Originally only suspected in the murder of the police officer, Oswald soon became the prime suspect in the assassination as well. Later that night, Oswald was formally charged with the murder of John F. Kennedy. Throughout the next 2 days, despite repeated public accusations of his guilt by the Dallas police, Oswald continually denied the charges.
All right, these people have given me a hearing without legal representation or anything. Did you shoot the president? I didn't shoot anybody, no, sir.
The alleged assassin, however, would not have a chance to prove his innocence. On Sunday, November 24th, in perhaps the most bizarre scene ever witnessed on live television, Oswald was himself shot and killed by Jack Ruby, the owner of a Dallas striptease club, as police attempted to transfer Oswald from the city to the county jail. The death of the only suspect in the assassination precluded a trial that might have turned up all the facts about the president's murder. President Lyndon Johnson, therefore, appointed a commission to investigate and report upon the facts relating to the assassination. This panel, headed by then Chief Justice Earl Warren, conducted a 6-month investigation into the death of President Kennedy. In late September 1964, the Warren Commission submitted an 888-page report to President Johnson. Their findings, universally known as the Warren Report, concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald had acted alone in killing President Kennedy and that there was no evidence of a conspiracy involving either Oswald or Jack Ruby. Immediately upon its release, the Warren Report was met with wide critical acclaim from the news media. The commission was praised for its diligence and its definitive account of the assassination. Within a few years, however, the report would be seriously attacked by a broad range of independent researchers who questioned the commission's findings, evidence, and procedures. The doubts raised by these critics have remained. According to recent surveys, as little as 13% of the American public still believes that Lee Harvey Oswald was the sole assassin of President Kennedy. At the center of these doubts lies the commission's reconstruction of the crime, a reconstruction that, as we shall see, relied not upon fact, but upon a most improbable theory.